They thought it was just jewelry, but nah, this turned into straight disrespect. When Young Thug stepped in, it wasn't about diamonds anymore. It was about money, power, and who really runs the game. Sources say tensions had been building behind the scenes for weeks, but nobody expected it to explode like this. One moment, everything looked calm. The next, boom, Thug snapped, calling out Icebox in a way that shook the whole industry. We're talking serious money on the line, big deals, and alleged disrespect that hit way deeper than business. And when a name like Young Thug starts speaking out, people listen. Fans are divided, insiders are whispering, and the streets? They're watching every move. Some say this could expose a lot more than just a jewelry dispute. This could open doors to secrets nobody was supposed to hear. But here's the real question. Did Icebox cross a line they can't come back from? Or is this just the beginning of a bigger war between artists and the people behind their shine? Because in this game, respect is everything, and once it's broken, there's no going back. Stay locked in, because what happens next might change everything. The energy didn't cool down after that moment. It only got louder. What started as whispers behind closed doors quickly turned into a full-blown situation that nobody in the industry could ignore. When Young Thug made it clear he felt disrespected, it wasn't just another celebrity complaint. It carried weight. Real weight. The kind that makes people pick sides without even realizing it. At first, people thought it might be a misunderstanding. You know how the game goes. Money moves fast, deals get messy, numbers don't always match expectations. But this didn't feel like a simple mix-up. The tone, the timing, the way everything unfolded, it felt personal. And when things get personal in the rap world, they rarely stay quiet. Behind the scenes, insiders started hinting that this wasn't the first time tension had built up between artists and Icebox. For years, Icebox had built a reputation as one of the go-to jewelers for big names, flashy pieces, custom designs, and a client list full of heavy hitters. But with that level of success comes pressure, and sometimes problems. Some fans began digging into old clips, old transactions, even old rumors, trying to connect dots that may or may not have been there. Social media turned into a battlefield overnight. One side defended Thug, saying an artist of his level wouldn't speak out unless something serious went down. The other side stood behind Icebox, arguing that a respected business wouldn't risk its name over something small. But the truth? It wasn't that simple. Because in this industry, money isn't just money, it's respect. It's status. It's power. And when someone feels like they've been played, even slightly, it can spark something way bigger than the original issue. That's exactly what this situation started to look like. People close to the situation claimed that the disagreement might have started over pricing, timing, or even how a deal was handled. Nothing officially confirmed, but enough smoke to make everyone believe there had to be some fire. And once those rumors hit the internet, there was no stopping them. What made things even more intense was the silence from Icebox in those early moments. No immediate response, no quick explanation, just quiet. And in a world where everyone expects instant reactions, silence can feel like guilt, even when it's not. That silence gave the story room to grow. Meanwhile, fans of Young Thug weren't holding back. They flooded comment sections, reposted clips, and amplified every word connected to the situation. To them, this wasn't just about jewelry, it was about defending one of their own. Someone who had built his name, his brand, and his influence from the ground up. And when an artist like Thug speaks, it echoes. But not everyone was convinced. Some industry watchers started questioning whether this could be something else entirely. Was it really about money? Or was there something deeper happening behind the scenes? Because in the entertainment world, conflicts aren't always what they seem. Sometimes they're layered, business mixed with ego, respect mixed with strategy. There were even whispers suggesting that situations like this could be part of a bigger shift, artists taking more control, speaking out more, refusing to stay quiet when something doesn't feel right. If that's the case, then this wasn't just a one-time clash, it was a sign of something changing in the culture. Still, the tension kept building. Every new post, every reaction video, every tweet, it all added fuel to the fire. People weren't just watching anymore, they were invested. Waiting. speculating, trying to predict what would happen next. Would Icebox finally respond? Would Thug double down? Or would this escalate into something nobody could control? Because history has shown one thing: when issues like this go public, they rarely end quietly. And then came another twist. A few voices from within the industry started hinting that more details could come out. Not just about this situation, but about how deals are handled behind the scenes in general. That's when things started to feel even bigger than just one artist and one jeweler. If those doors opened, a lot of people might have something to say. And suddenly, the stakes weren't just about one moment of disrespect, they were about reputation. Not just for Young Thug, but for Icebox too. Because in a business built on trust and image, even a hint of controversy can leave a mark. But here's where it gets interesting. Despite all the noise, there was still no clear answer. No confirmed details. Just reactions, speculation, and rising tension. And sometimes, that's exactly what keeps a situation alive the longest, the unknown. Because people don't just want facts. They want drama. They want sides. They want a story that feels bigger than reality. And right now, this had all of that. As the situation continued to unfold, one thing became clear: this wasn't fading away anytime soon. Too many eyes were on it. Too many voices were involved. And too much pride was at stake. The question wasn't whether this was serious anymore. The question was, how far would it go? Because in the world of rap, once respect is challenged, it doesn't just end with words. It turns into something bigger, something louder, something that can reshape relationships, reputations, and even the culture itself. And if this really was just the beginning, then what comes next might be even more explosive than anyone expected. Because just when people thought the situation might start cooling off, it did the exact opposite. The tension didn't just stay alive, it evolved. Conversations that were once just speculation started turning into deeper discussions about how business is really handled behind the scenes and who actually holds the power when money and image collide. For Young Thug, this wasn't just about clearing his name. It started to look like he was drawing a line. A line between artists being silent and artists speaking up. And whether people agreed with him or not, one thing was undeniable: he had everyone paying attention. At the same time, Icebox couldn't ignore the noise anymore. The longer things stayed unclear, the more the narrative started slipping out of their control. In today's world, perception can become reality overnight, and if you don't tell your side of the story, someone else will tell it for you. And that's exactly what started happening. Different voices began stepping in: bloggers, influencers, even people claiming to have inside knowledge. Some supported Thug's claims, suggesting that situations like this happen more often than people realize. Others pushed back hard, defending Icebox and saying their reputation had been built over years of trust, not shortcuts. But here's the twist: every new voice only made things more complicated. Because now, it wasn't just about two sides anymore. It became a full-blown debate about the entire system. How artists are treated. How deals are negotiated. How much transparency really exists when big money is involved. And once that door opened, there was no closing it. Fans started asking bigger questions. Not just who's right, but how often does this happen? That curiosity turned into theories, threads, deep dives. Suddenly, people were analyzing everything from past purchases to public interactions, looking for patterns that might explain what was really going on. And in the middle of all this, silence was no longer an option. That's when the pressure truly peaked. Because when the spotlight stays on you for too long, you either step forward or you risk being defined by the noise. And both sides knew that. The stakes had officially gone beyond one situation. They were now about credibility. For Young Thug, credibility meant standing firm, not backing down. Showing that he wasn't just speaking out for himself, but possibly for others who felt the same but never said anything. That kind of stance? It resonates. Especially in a culture where authenticity is everything. But for Icebox, credibility meant something different. It meant protecting their name, their brand, and the trust they had built with countless artists over the years. One controversy, even if unproven, could shift how people see them moving forward. And that's why this moment mattered so much. Because no matter how it ended, it was going to leave an impact. Meanwhile, the internet kept doing what it does best, turning moments into movements. Reaction videos kept popping up. Debates kept getting louder. People weren't just watching anymore, they were emotionally invested. Some were saying this could lead to more artists coming forward with their own stories. Others believed it would blow over like many industry controversies do, loud for a moment, then slowly forgotten. But something about this felt different. Maybe it was the timing. Maybe it was the names involved. Or maybe it was the fact that people were starting to look beyond the surface. Because underneath all the drama, there was a deeper issue being exposed, the relationship between artists and the businesses they rely on. A relationship built on trust, but also pressure. Built on image, but also expectation. And when that balance gets disrupted, things can spiral fast. As days passed, the anticipation only grew stronger. Everyone was waiting for a defining moment. A statement. A response. Something that would finally bring clarity to the chaos. But clarity never comes easy in situations like this. Instead, what people got were fragments, small hints, indirect messages, reactions that only raised more questions. And sometimes, that's even more powerful than a clear answer. Because it keeps people guessing, keeps them engaged, and most importantly, keeps the story alive. At this point, it was clear that this wasn't just about resolving an issue anymore. It had turned into a narrative. A story that people were following in real time, trying to piece together like a puzzle with missing parts. And every missing part made it more intriguing. For Young Thug, staying at the center of that narrative meant maintaining control over his voice. Not letting the situation twist into something it wasn't. Because once a story gets away from you, it's almost impossible to pull it back. For Icebox, it meant navigating a storm without making it worse. Respond too aggressively, and you risk escalating things. Stay too quiet, and you risk losing control of the narrative completely. It was a delicate balance, and everyone was watching how it would play out. But here's where things took another turn. The conversation started shifting again, this time toward what could happen next. Not just between these two names, but across the entire industry. If artists started speaking out more, would businesses change how they operate? Would deals become more transparent? Or would things stay exactly the same, just with more attention on them? Those questions didn't have answers yet, but they were being asked. And sometimes, that's how change begins, not with answers, but with questions that refuse to go away. As the noise continued, one thing became undeniable. This moment had already made its mark. Whether it led to real change or not, it had exposed something, sparked something, created a conversation that wasn't going to disappear overnight. And in the world of hip-hop, conversations like that can turn into movements before you even realize it. So now, all eyes remained on what would happen next. Would there be a resolution? Would things escalate even further? Or would this become one of those moments that lingers, never fully explained, but never fully forgotten either? Because in this game, not every story gets a clean ending. Sometimes, the mystery is what keeps it alive. And that's exactly where things stood, but the silence didn't mean the story was over. If anything, it felt like everything was building towards something bigger, something nobody could fully predict yet. Because when tension lingers this long without a clear resolution, it usually means one thing: something is still happening behind the scenes. At this stage, the focus started shifting again, not just on what was said publicly, but on what wasn't being said. People began paying closer attention to subtle moves. Who was liking what? Who was reposting what? Who suddenly went quiet? In today's digital world, even the smallest action can speak volumes. For Young Thug, every move mattered more than ever. The spotlight wasn't just on his words anymore, it was on his silence too. Fans started reading into everything, trying to decode whether he was preparing to escalate things further or letting the situation breathe before making his next move. And at the same time, Icebox found itself in a position where every decision carried weight. Whether they chose to speak out, stay silent, or respond indirectly, each path came with its own risks. Because by now, this wasn't just a situation, it was a test of reputation under pressure. Meanwhile, the industry itself seemed to be reacting in a subtle but noticeable way. Some artists started moving differently, more cautious, more calculated. Others appeared more vocal than usual, hinting at their own experiences without directly naming names. It was almost like a ripple effect had been created, and even those not directly involved could feel it. And that's when the conversation took on a whole new layer. Because now, it wasn't just about one conflict anymore. It was about a pattern. A possibility that what people were witnessing might not be an isolated incident, but part of something bigger that had existed quietly for years. Fans picked up on that shift immediately. Discussions got deeper. Less about drama, more about understanding. People started asking smarter questions about contracts, about pricing, about how relationships between artists and businesses are really built. It wasn't just entertainment anymore, it was education in real time. But even with all that attention, the core issue remained unresolved. No clear statements, no confirmed details. Just a growing sense that something important had been exposed without being fully explained. And sometimes, that's more powerful than a full reveal. Because when people don't have all the answers, they keep searching, keep talking, keep the story alive long after it should have faded. And that's exactly what was happening here. For Young Thug, this ongoing attention could be seen as both a risk and an opportunity. A risk because staying in the spotlight always brings pressure. But an opportunity because moments like this can redefine how an artist is perceived, not just as a performer, but as someone willing to stand on principle. And in hip-hop, that kind of stance carries weight. On the other side, Icebox had to think long-term, beyond this situation, beyond the current noise. Because their reputation wasn't built overnight, and it wouldn't be defined by one moment alone, but how they handled this moment could influence how they're seen moving forward. And that's where strategy comes into play. Because sometimes, the smartest move isn't the loudest one. Sometimes, it's about timing. About choosing when to speak, how to respond, and what message to send, not just to the public, but to the industry as a whole. But while both sides seemed to be navigating carefully, the outside world wasn't slowing down. If anything, the conversation kept expanding. New theories continued to surface. Some believable, some completely out there, but all contributing to the same thing, momentum. The story refused to fade, and every new angle only added to its complexity. At this point, it became clear that this wasn't just a moment, it was becoming a reference point. Something people would look back on when talking about artist-business relationships in the future. And that kind of impact doesn't disappear easily. Still, one major question remained unanswered. Would there ever be a clear resolution? Because as time passed, it started to feel like the situation might not end with a dramatic conclusion. No big reveal. No final statement that ties everything together. Just a slow shift from a heated moment to a lasting conversation. And honestly, that might be even more powerful. Because a single moment can fade. But a conversation? That can last forever. As things continued to unfold, it became obvious that both sides had already made their mark in different ways. One by speaking out and sparking the conversation, the other by being at the center of it and navigating the pressure that came with it. And somewhere in between all of that, the audience had changed too. People were more aware now, more curious, less willing to accept things at face value. And that shift in perspective? That's something that can influence the culture in ways that go far beyond one situation. So even without a clear ending, the impact was real. The story had done what most moments in the industry aim to do. It captured attention, sparked debate, and left people thinking long after the headlines slowed down. And maybe that's the real takeaway here. Not who was right, not who was wrong, but what the situation revealed. Because in a world where image often overshadows reality, moments like this pull back the curtain, just enough for people to see that there's always more happening behind the scenes than what's shown on the surface. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. So as the noise slowly begins to settle, one thing remains certain. This wasn't just about jewelry. This wasn't just about money. This was about respect, power, and the shifting dynamics of an industry that's constantly evolving. And even if the full truth never comes out, the impact of this moment will still be felt. Because sometimes, The biggest stories aren't the ones that end loudly. They're the ones that leave a lasting echo. If you made it this far, you already know. This situation is way deeper than it looks. But now I want to hear from you. Do you think Young Thug was right to call this out, or is Icebox being unfairly targeted? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this debate is far from over. And don't forget, hit that like button if you want more real, unfiltered stories like this. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown, because trust me, the next story might be even crazier. Share this video with your friends and let them decide which side they're on, because conversations like this deserve to be heard everywhere. Stay locked in, we're just getting started.